What's up, everybody? Welcome to episode 419 of Opinions May Vary. I'm your host, JR. My co-host with me, Alex.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm good.
We're getting there. We're getting there. It's cold. That's all I got. I don't know. I can't make small talk. It's just not my thing. Joining us this week is a very good friend of the show, a very good friend of ours, and I've been bothering Alex to talk with this person for a little while now, because I've just had the mood, the hankering to talk about certain things. I'm tired of being vague. We're talking with Babs Daniels, Babs who takes pictures, however you want to put it. Babs, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to talk nerd stuff.
We're gonna go head first right into it. And one could even say these days, it's not even nerds. It's like mainstream stuff. But we'll get into that. Babs, you have over the last like 6 to 8 months become like a guru slash just, I don't know the right word. I don't know if savant is the correct word or just, you've been playing a shitload of D&D, and I wanted to talk about it because it is one of the few shining stars in the horribleness that is the rest of existence.
Yeah.
Because the last year has been very sad for obvious reasons. Everyone has been trying to find their ways to cope and stay busy and stay occupied and all that stuff. And I feel like one of the few beacons of light has been just kind of following along on your Twitter feed, the games that you've been playing and the specifically the games that you've been running. And I wanted to talk about it because I don't know, I just like D&D. So one thing that was kind of, it blew my mind a little bit. You tweeted it recently, and I actually had the tweet pulled up, and then I scrolled off of it because I'm stupid. I just found it though. So it was literally 3 hours ago. So you kind of provided us content right away. So there's a program called Roll20, which I've used once in the past when our good friend Bob was running a game back when pandemic first hit. He's like, hey, I need to test this thing, log into this program, make an account. And I really enjoyed it. We'll talk more about Roll20 a little bit. But you specifically tweeted, I only used Roll20 for about 6 hours in 2016. And the rest of this time is since April 2020. So 6 hours in 2016. Mm-hmm. And since April 2020, you've put in 282 hours.
Yeah.
Some quick math using my calculator, that comes out to 12 full days worth of D&D.
I really wanted to make it to 300 in 2020.
Oh man.
But I mean,
you're right there. Yeah, you're right there.
It's possible.
12 hours, that's like 2 sessions.
Oh, do you want me? I can. I'll throw a one shot with the OMV cast. Just call your favorite guests.
Just to hit the 300.
Yeah.
Like Spartans. It'll be based on Leonidas. I'll be Leonidas, and Alex can be Xerxes.
What?
So
what? Why am I?
I feel like it fits.
I don't have any piercings.
But you're tall.
Yes.
You're the tallest person in here, I think.
Oh.
Yes, that's very accurate. Yeah. Babs and I are both on the shorter side.
I'm under 5 foot, so.
Yeah, that'll do it. That kind of blew my mind. So I'm kind of trying to figure out where I wanted to start with this, and I think I'm just going to start at the beginning, meaning up in 2016, you had 6 hours of D&D time, which is still roughly, yeah, it's a decent amount of time. What caused this dramatic surge and interest in D&D since April of 2020?
Well, for where I work, my department is a community partnership program, which means that we do a lot of fundraising work working with the community, and we are a big donator to March of Dimes, making strides against breast cancer and all that. COVID hit, March of Dimes, all of a sudden we can't have bake sales, we can't give out items, we can't visit people, we can't be in the public anymore. So we're desperate for ideas to raise money for making or March of Dimes. And I knew of Roll20. I was like, hey, if anybody wants to pay me like $5 a session or $20 for a couple of sessions, I'll run a D&D game. And my boss was like, I don't know what D&D is. Like, it's a game. And get a bunch of people to play for a couple of hours. People donate per session, and we can do that. And everybody else is like, how about we just play bingo?
Nah.
And I'm like, I want to play D&D. So my landlady's son gave me the booklet for The Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is one of the first campaign modules that comes out for 5e.
Mm-hmm.
It helps beginner DMs learn how to DM. It helps beginner players learn how to be players. And I worked off of that. And in April, I had made roughly about $724 from people just being interested in the fact that I am DMing. Some people tipped very heavily because they apparently really enjoyed the games. And some are just like, Babs is raising money for something. It's a good cause, dropping money. This is like right before all the furloughs happened. The people had money to drop.
Yeah.
So then it became, because that was one game a week, every single week. And then I very quickly extended it to 3 games a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, because I live alone. A lot of people live alone. I had lost my second job as being a lifestyle photographer. So for the first time in my life, I only had a single job. So I'm like, I have to have something take up my time. I need a schedule or else I'm going to go nuts. So I started having more games. And once it's wrapped up, I would do like one-shots. Like I tried 13th Age, which is not D&D. It's a different system. I do not like it. Brett was in that attempt. Everybody liked the story, but the gameplay we kind of regarded it as garbage because it was our first time. And it's like, this is too different. And right around the time of me doing a different one-shot, one of my friends who noticed, as you did, that I started leading into D&D a lot, goes, hey, I run a channel called Really Dicey. Do you want to review different TTRPGs at least once a week? Put them on the YouTube channel, and we'll give you stuff for free. I was like, all right, I love free content. So I started doing that up until my computer died, and I couldn't do the video interviews for a little bit. And on top of that, I'm going to also be reviewing maps that I get from Reddit and from Patreon, because I do follow some map makers on Patreon, and they have some absolutely like beautiful remakings of Lost Mine of Phandelver and other things. Like when you see Phandelver, if you spend like the $8 that the campaign costs, it's a general town view. It's like something that akin to what you would get when you visit a tourist town. It's like, oh, well, over here's this, over here's this. There's no house maps. And there are people on Reddit who go, hey, we've had this for 10 years. Let's build a town. And they have like the inns made out, has multiple floors. Chansadar Manor has been destroyed and rebuilt like 100 different times. You can find anything you need. So I'm like, I'm going to do videos that highlight certain artists and have that on Dicey.
Okay. Before we get too far ahead, we probably already have like a couple questions.
Like 30, like straight up.
I'm sorry, I get asked this a lot.
No, it's okay. We have to learn when to interject and direct the conversation better. But so the system that didn't run well.
13th Age.
What was did the system have a name, or was it just part of that? Is it what?
It's called 13th Age.
Okay. Back when we had on the guys from I Read Comic Books, one of their flash questions was D20 or D6 gaming systems. And we're like, what's a D6 game system? And we still haven't figured it out. I haven't looked it up, but I'm not sure if that's one that just doesn't work that well.
I have reviewed the setting for a Mythic 6 game, and it seems really fun. I'm actually supposed to be playing one pretty soon. They were just waiting for my computer to get back, and it just got back to me 2 days ago.
Do you have an idea of what's different between the 14 missing sides of the die?
It's just really how many times you roll a d6.
Okay.
So instead of having, all the other dice, you just, okay, I'm going to roll a d6 4 times. I'm going to roll it 8 times. I'm going to roll it twice.
Oh, that's so much math.
Yeah.
That is, yeah, I think part of one of the things, and this might just because I'm a novice, or maybe I'm just a sucker for peripherals, or if that's even the right word, but I like the dice. Can I roll something? Dope. I'm rolling. What does it mean? Tell me. And I get really excited. I'm a sucker for throwing the dice.
You're a goblin click-clack collector.
It's fair. That's a fair assessment. I mean, a couple years ago, my wife snagged me one of the Wormwood dice towers, and it doesn't matter where we're playing D&D. It doesn't matter who we're playing with. I have a dice tower, and I have dice. That dice tower is going to get used. Oh, we're in a public place? I don't care. Let me set up my dice tower. Because, again, I am a sucker.
Yo, Wormwood Gaming is legit.
They straight up are. They've exploded. I mean, I think they have another Kickstarter. If it's not still going on right now, I think they just wrapped it up for their next foray into the woodworking unit. It's insane.
Didn't they make that amazing table for Critical Role?
I can't remember.
I'm pretty sure they did.
I know they've made stuff for Critical Role, but I can't remember who made the table. It's insane. It's insane. It's straight up bonkers quality stuff, and it makes me miss conventions now.
Yeah.
So, do you run games for your friends, or are these strangers who happen to find you, or is there a forum or a message board or somewhere where you say, I'm running games and the donation is this much and here's when we play?
I go through friends first because I say my friends are lonely and they need Babs.
We are.
Yeah, so I reach out to them first, and if they're like, I'm really low on money, I'll be like, all right, then next time I need something advertised, you just post about it, and I'll just make the donation to the whatever on their behalf. Because like I said, this is the only way I can raise money for now it's making strides against breast cancer. So I don't want to be short that $5, so I put it in myself, and they owe me, Babs is doing this in the future, so I'm going to share this.
Mm-hmm.
They owe you a favor that you may call on, or you may not.
A shout out.
I'm trying to quote the Godfather. So essentially, right now, Babs, you are Don Corleone to me, and that's the only visual that I'm going to have for the rest of my life. So, when you put these games together, let's talk experience. So, if someone reaches out to you who maybe...
So I actually made a Facebook group that's full of about 20 people who wanted to play a game with me. And to get in, they had to be willing to pay the $5 or, have the barter thing going on. And then they filled out a Google form that said their experience. I gave a little bit of information on what campaigns I had available that I was willing to do, just because some are way longer than others. I'm like, if you're a beginner, you are not playing this other one because it's too long, it's too hard. You're going to slow it up. So I looked at the Google forms at the end after everybody filled it out. And I was like, okay, you 5 seem like you're going to be matched with this. You 4 seem like you're going to be matched with this. And that's how I worked it out. And that one did actually have a few strangers in it.
Do you find, is there any difference really in when strangers play together versus when friends play together? Do you ever have to kind of guide it along more, with more hand holding because maybe they're shy or unfamiliar with each other or anything like that?
Well, what I found is when I do this, it's a huge mixing of friend groups. So it'll be people that I've known for 15 years, meaning other people that I've known for 15 years who just have never crossed. So essentially they're all going in as strangers, except people who know Brett because they eventually have heard a story. Oh, he's kind of like my legendary player / character because he's in 5 of my 7 sessions.
Which, as a follow-up, I also wanted to get into that, the amount of sessions. So just for some context here, me, Alex, and our kind of core friend group have been running we have 2 games going. One that our very good friend Joe has been running, which is our original game. That's the one that it's the first time I ever played D&D. I can't remember if Alex, if that was your first time or if you've played in the past.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, it's pretty much all of our first go at it, aside from Joe, who was running the game. We've been playing that game ever since. I believe that's probably 4 or 5 years old at this point. And we also have a game. Oh man, there's actually 3 games going on. There's also a game that Colin is running that is Pokemon themed, which is it's dark.
And yes, Brett tells me about all of your games, and that's what got me into it a little bit more.
It is. It takes turns. And then Brett also has kind of like a mini game that he ran. We haven't had a chance to pick it up, but anyways, so we've technically been running like two main games and then also some smaller ones, kind of whenever someone wants to take the reins, and even that is difficult to keep up with. I usually have to have someone give me a synopsis, like what happened last time. It also doesn't help that we only play once every couple months, but
yeah.
So you just said that you're currently running 7 games.
Yeah.
And now, are you DMing every one of these, or are you a player in any of them?
I'm DMing 7, and I'm a player in an 8th game.
Good God. Now, up until April 2020, have you ever DM'd a game before?
No.
Jesus Christ.
My very first game was April 10th.
That is... I have DM'd one time. Not to make this about me, I'm just trying to provide context. And just DMing that one time required weeks of preparation for a terrible homebrew one-shot where I made my players so strong they killed like 4 dragons in 2 turns. And it was supposed to be the big climactic boss battle that I wasn't sure if they'd be able to beat. And they literally walked through it like butter. It was humiliating. And humbling. So to see that you've been DMing less than a year, currently running 7 games, hats off to you. That is unbelievable.
Like I said, I live alone, and I lost my second job.
True. Now what resources did you use to kind of kick this off? You've mentioned modules. Was it just a matter of buying the player's handbook and going from there? Had you get ready to start doing this?
Sometime last year, I think it was for Christmas, Brett got me the player's handbook because he got me the DM's handbook because he knew I was interested in playing, and I used to do this whole writing thing back in like 2014 to 2015 where I just wrote stories, and I couldn't get into the story part. I like world building, I like character building, but I don't like making the characters move. I like someone else doing that. So he's like, well, that's more, it seems like you're building up to being a DM. So he got me the DM's handbook, and I pulled that up. My landlady's son gave me, let me borrow the Lost Mine of Phandelver. And at the time, because, the stay-at-home order started in middle of March, and this was April at this point, Roll20 and D&D Beyond and a few other sites were giving out campaigns for free. So I had the physical version of Phandelver in front of me. I had it free on Roll20, and I just, in the very beginning, it was very much me, turning pages and taking a few seconds and then going, the goblin attacks for 2 damage. It was awful. Like my first 2 games, like, ugh. And now I can, because I've been doing it, I'm grinding my my DM skill. So I just like know some things off the bat, or I have not mastered Roll20, but I have things going on that's on the side that they don't know about, so I can not spend like 15 minutes trying to figure out a simple action or what to do next. I'm also really good at improv now.
It's like one of those unexpected but welcome surprises. Like, oh, it turns out there's a lot of improv in D&D, so by default, it's gonna be a skill that kind of gets honed when maybe you didn't expect it to be.
I actually used a lot of management training that I got free from work into playing D&D. Because I'm working with between 4 and 6 people who want their turn right now. Ooh. So I learned how to keep people from talking over each other, giving people their turn, not giving too much attention to one person, and circling back with very brief summary to pull everybody back into a group action.
Right.
Which is needed for meetings when everybody wants to contribute.
Having run the same module so many times, have you gotten like huge varying differences between how players get through it, or like how they achieve the goals, or has it usually been kind of the same?
Oh, it's been completely different. In the first 2 runs of Lost Mine of Phandelver, well, in all of them, everybody goes after these goblins who attack you on the road. But in the third game, the more recent one I'm playing, we just had our 3rd session. This is the very first time that the group, instead of killing all the goblins, kidnapped 2. And it's the very first time that they killed all the wolves in the den. Like, usually people will feed the wolves or let them free and be very nice to them. This group's like, nah, we gotta kill them and just slaughter them. But they're also very obsessed with unions. So they're trying to talk, they're carrying it. They're trying to find the manager of the goblins to free their friend, while the other 2 are just like, we're going to either kill or just negotiate with them. It's like, no, we gotta talk to the manager. Where is the one in charge? And I'm like, okay, gotta look up unions and like figure out an actual structure, because this is going to be a thing now.
Do the
players...
now
you can charge them dues.
Do the players still make their own characters, or are they more assigned because the module has these characters supplied?
Module has characters. I have them make their own because I found, Gnome Rogue to be very, basic. Like,
wow.
It was like Gnome Rogue, Human Ranger, Human Wizard, and Dwarf something. Like, no, that's boring. Make your own characters.
Oh, that's what's supplied. Was the basic? Okay. Have any been like, you dial it back a bit, like you're taking a little too far, or do you just let them go crazy?
I had 1 or 2 players who I had to learn how to cut off and get them to pull it back. And it's like, okay, you are not the only player. You've kind of been talking for 5 minutes straight and you keep cutting people off. Let's I figured out how to say, all right, I'm going to pause you there, and we're going to go back to other people because it's been several minutes, and we will loop back to you. And It's a lot of reassuring people, I will get back to you. Because even though I'm recording every session with Zoom, I do take my own notes. Like, we're going to come back to that because you've had a lot of time. Other people have things they want to do. I promise we're going to get back to you. And people like that reassurance that they're not going to be forgotten or spoken over.
Let's kind of, as a segue with that, I wanted to talk about, because I don't know if this is something you have to deal with. You may not encounter it, but maybe with 7 different games going, you may have some experience with it. So I'm curious how you kind of handle it. So a big problem in tabletop games is table topping, and I literally just heard Matt Mercer explain this last night on a live stream so eloquently, because I was watching, I don't know if you guys are familiar with Dr. Lupo. He's a streamer. He was doing like a charity stream for St. Jude's, raising money. They raised like $2 million in 24 hours. It was insane. And they were playing like Celebrity Among Us. They were playing with like Matt Mercer, Mike and Jerry from Penny Arcade. I can't remember pretty much anyone else. But at one point, someone asked Matt Mercer about like tabletopping, and he explained it just beautifully. I'll have to try to find the clip. But it's like where people are, acting and performing with their character with things that their character wouldn't know, or something of that nature. Is that something that you come across in any of your games? Is it something you will call out? Do you just let it kind of slide?
Okay. and I don't do it. I do not do it meanly, because I can't hide a lot of the map, because sometimes I have to project the whole screen that way. So I can't use Fog of War, which if you're using Roll20, Fog of War does not let you see anything that's not within your character's field of vision.
Right.
So because I have to project the whole screen, they're like, all right, we're going to make plans for that boss in the next room. I'm like, you don't know that. As far as you know, there's a ballet going on in the next room. You do not know that there's a boss in there. Like, but I can see it. It's like, that doesn't matter. You see it. Your character doesn't see it.
Right.
And then everybody's like, all right, so what are we going to do next? So they want the action to happen. They don't want the arguments. So like, okay, we're going to drop it. We don't know what's in there. We're going to investigate this way. Thankfully, because I am playing with a lot of friends, there's not a ton of argument. I'll say the arguments is absolutely minimal. Like, the conversation of me getting people to stop metagaming is typically not even that long. Right. I'll just sometimes go, you don't know that.
And it's that simple, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes it's just that quick reminder. Like, oh, right, yeah, I don't, thank you. Like, I forgot that. Because, Joe will say something to Alex, who is in a different, quote unquote, a different room than me. And he'll say something that's relevant to my position, and unknowingly I'll start reacting to that thing, and like Joe will have to be like, no, you don't know that. Like, you need to act accordingly. And while it can be frustrating, it makes sense. There have been times where a DM or a game manager, whoever you want to address it, will pull someone out of the room because they don't want other people knowing about it. Because sometimes it's just difficult. Go ahead.
When I do get to play through Roll20 and everybody's on Roll20, you can actually whisper to specific people and no one else can hear.
Huh.
Really?
Yeah, it's fantastic. So there was in one of the Phandelver games, they came across a Nothic, which I believe it only speaks telepathy. So I would just like click on people's icons and would say creepy things relevant to their characters, and you would see them react because they didn't know I could do that. So they would legitimately ask each other, "Wait, did you hear that?" No, they were saying stuff, and it was great.
So let's talk about Roll20. I've used it once, and I thought it was really cool. A friend of ours had pre-made a bunch of like a mini campaign to kind of run us through it because he was planning on running a bigger campaign with his friends, and he needed some test subjects to kind of fine tune stuff. And he had the maps all made, and he had us make characters real quick, and it was fun. I thought it was a really neat tool. There was a bit of a learning curve, in learning the different kind of tools that are available to you and what they do and all that stuff. But I wanted to get your opinion on Roll20, and for those that don't know, it's kind of like an online D&D format, I guess.
It's a virtual tabletop.
Yeah, that. Listen to what Bab said and not me. What's your thoughts on programs like Roll20, and do you like it? What are your favorites? What are your what other resources do you use? Let's talk about these kind of things.
So I only know of 3. Roll20, obviously, which I know about. I pay for an account so I can use up to 4 gigs of space, which I have used up with not all of it. I've used up about a gig of maps, character art, NPC art, and the like. Dude, I have over 100 gigs of D&D resources on my computer. That's not including my recorded sessions. That is backgrounds, that is character art, that is campaign books.
Wow.
But Roll20, which I really like, because I pay for it now, I do get dynamic lighting, which as you are moving your token, and like let's say I have Fog of War, and so if you're going through a dungeon, everything except for what is within your vision is black to you, and it actively changes as you move your token. And I adore that.
That's rad.
It really is, and it takes into account like looking around corners.
Some real quick context. Just before we get too far ahead,
Yep.
You said you have over 100 gigs of maps and character models and all that stuff?
Yep.
So real quick, I checked my computer. My folder for episodes, just for our podcast episodes all together, all 400 something, whatever. Now keep in mind, they don't take up a whole lot of space, but there's over 400 of them. 25 gigs. I just wanted to kind of throw that out there. As soon as you said 100 gigs, I was like, I need to find something to compare that against. So really, Babs has a lot of D&D stuff. That's what I was kind of getting at. Anyways, continue. Roll20. Let's talk resources.
There's also, I know you can use for free, Owlbear Rodeo. It's owlbear.rodeo, and that's the site. So you can put it in right now, and you get a cute little picture of an owlbear. And that is a very light version of Roll20. Like, you can move your characters, the DM can put in maps, and it's not terribly fancy, but it's like, it's useful.
Right.
Like, if you don't want to deal with the learning curve of Roll20, I would suggest Owlbear Rodeo. And the only other one I know about, and I've seen it. I have no experience with it. It looks absolutely beautiful. Is Fantasy Grounds, and I know that has free version, and I know that has paid version, obviously.
Does D&D Beyond have anything like that, or is that mostly just for like actual tools to use instead of virtual tabletops?
I'm not sure if it has a virtual tabletop, but I do know that it has a plugin for Twitch. So if you're interested in a particular character that you're watching play on screen, you can click their name and you will see their entire stat sheet pull up.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
But I know that's for active live streaming. I don't know much beyond that.
So we've kind of whittled down the fact that you use Roll20 a lot. What are your preferred resources aside from Roll20? Like, are there any sites or places where you can get tools / resources that you could recommend to people that are really in particular your favorites?
I love Reddit. I follow the Battle Map subreddit, the D&D Battle Map subreddit, Dungeon Draft, Incarnate, and I think that's it. And there are people who will provide very high quality maps for free. There are some of them where I was so impressed. I'm like, I'm following you on Patreon. I can't give you a lot of money per month, but I'm following you on Patreon because this was fantastic work. And there are some people who, for free, have provided maps that move. Like there is very nice, like tranquil arcanist who has a little cabin next to the water, and the water moves, and the water wheel turns, and you see like the magics just like flicker a little bit. It's very beautiful.
That's some ASMR type stuff right there.
Yep.
So you can just get these files and load them into your Roll20 game, and like that's what players will see now. And is that how you find characters too? And you can just import the character file, image, whatever.
You can just drag and drop it right in, and it will load very quickly.
Wow.
Damn. So really, and was all this stuff around pre-COVID? Is this all like I don't know, because I imagine the industry, at least the digital industry, is kind of boomed in the last 8 months. I never really had much use for it beforehand because I always just played in person. So I'm kind of in the dark when it comes to stuff like this.
I'm pretty sure it's boomed because of COVID.
Right.
Because like I said, D&D Beyond, Roll20, a couple of other sites did have campaigns that were free for the first couple of months just to get people doing something.
Mm-hmm.
I know D&D, I think it was D&D Beyond that was giving out stuff weekly that was free as well.
Right. Is there any, going forward in kind of your D&D future? I kind of want to just talk like dream scenario because you've mentioned that you've run the same kind of intro modules. Is there one module that exists out there that you're just dying to play, and like maybe you're just kind of waiting for the right group or getting the right experience? Is there one that it's kind of like the grail that you want to run?
So I decided very early on that all of my campaigns are in the same world. And I have built a pretty extensive background lore of the world. And it's not so much as any one campaign, but I'm waiting for the right person to ask the right questions to figure out this lore and how everything is connected. Because they'll hear rumors of stuff that's happening in other campaigns, like Phandelver 3 are hearing rumors of this fire that's going on in the very far east, which is one of my Humblewood games.
Right.
And they'll see like adventurers heading off there, be like, oh, I heard that there's like animal people out there, and they'll head that way. And just some of the stuff that the characters will bring up, and like, ooh, I might make an entire campaign based off of like what they think is happening.
We haven't.
So my dream is to have them like figure out like my deep lore, which I will not say because I know at the very least Brett is going to listen to this, and he does not know.
We haven't talked about Humblewood yet. Can you? It's because I wanted to like look up a little bit on Phandelver, and then I was like, what else you got? And you mentioned Humblewood, and the first thing that catches my eye is an adorable little owl with a sword and a shield. Like, how I would never want to fight that little guy. He's too cute.
Yeah, so Humblewood was actually, it came about that an artist made that piece and it hit the internet and everybody's like, we will play a campaign that is based off of that. So that's what happened. An entire world was based off of this one character. And Humblewood, I will say, is as dark as it is adorable. Like, there is some messed up stuff that's going on, and I love it. There's a part of the world map that's called the Scorched Grove, and for like an untold period of time, it is perpetually burning because there are fire monsters that are spawning over there over and over and over again, and the fire is slowly expanding and killing people.
Wow.
And your group has to like come together and figure out the reason behind that. I altered my campaign to be shorter just because I wanted to run it quickly and not make it a very long thing, which of course didn't work. It ended up being like 10 sessions. And I did that thing that JR mentioned where you give your characters overpowered things because you don't think they're strong enough.
Right.
So I did that because I forgot that they had missed a story beat, so they didn't level up as they should have, so I gave them 2 powerful weapons.
Yep.
And I wanted the mage to find this particular ring, but her real life sister, who was also playing, was playing the typical rogue who steals shit. So she stole the ring. The ring is the Ring of Winter, which is basically the One Ring from Lord of the Rings, except it has power over ice. And quite unfortunately, it was smarter, more charismatic, and had better wisdom than anybody else in the entire party. But the wizard, had she had gotten it, would have been the only person equipped to combat it mentally. But the rogue took it, so she was constantly just making ice sculptures when they're supposed to be doing other things.
It's funny, but also, you know, like tragic to the DM or the game master when like they have this idea like, oh, I introduced a special item for character X, but then character Y got the item and the plans are all thrown out, which happened in our game where my wizard found some kind of crown or something. I don't quite recall. I think it was a crown. And it was specifically meant for Colin's character. But Colin's character has been a jerk to my character the entire time I've existed, and I wasn't about to hand it over. And Joe's like, what happened to that thing? I was like, oh, I was going to sell it, but then the entire city burnt down, and now I just don't have it. He's like, you didn't give it to? I was like, no, of course not. He hates me. He's told me to my face he's going to kill me. Why would I give him anything? And Joe's like, oh, that would have... Never mind.
Scribbling furiously.
So you can't always... Go ahead.
I had intended the Ring of Winter to be used against the entity that was setting everything on fire, and then they would destroy each other. Or it wasn't going to destroy the person because she was a fae that was turned evil by manipulation, blah, blah, story stuff.
Right.
But making her good again would destroy the ring, and I wanted that to happen. And they're like, no, we're just going to straight up kill her. I was like, what? You see me mentally blue screen because I had been dropping hints for over an hour at that point. We're just like, oh, she's being mind controlled. All you have to do is free her and everything's going to be okay. Because no, we're going to kill her. I was like, and when it's the final person that's dying in an encounter, I say, are you striking to knock out or to kill? And they went, to kill. Okay.
It's a bunch of murder
hobos.
We
clarified that. You just killed half of the unseelie royal couple right there. That's bad.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I wanted you to do.
See me mentally blue screen so many times in my games where I'm just like, you what now? Okay, I have to like do this mental gymnastics.
Do you like... I've watched a couple of videos here and there, and there's been people who have been gaming for a very long time. And so choosing to step into this and take on this many games, is there a lot of training or I guess watching other people's anecdotes or how-to videos? Because there's a few things that I watch. One of them is Joe Cat, and he just put out a really good I forgot the title of his videos. he does like an idiot's guide kind of thing. And he just did one for how to DM, and it was his longest video that I've seen so far, but it was really good. And I was like, that explained everything. It's like how you can't make it your game because you have to make it your player's game, and they're playing to enjoy it, and you can't enjoy everything. So you just have to, have some give and take and modify.
So I have Fred as a resource, and from the very beginning, he told me, don't take anything personally that happens. Don't have anything set in stone. Just be very loose with it. Because at the very beginning, I was very bad at improv. He saw me trying to improv. Well, I was on an improv panel, and they said it was one thing, and it was really another. And I walked off because I was really bad at improv. And no one was letting me take it out. I was like, I even had my hand out to the host and says, I can't improv. Just let me tap out. And they wouldn't. So I just walked off. And after that, Brett is very supportive in helping me learn how to improv, and instead of saying no, yes anding. And that's really my training as being a DM. Yes, you can do XYZ, but this happens. Mm-hmm. I don't watch a lot of D&D training videos unless it is particular to the campaign. Okay, how do I play as this character? What is their motivations? How do I do this particular module within this campaign? Just so I'm not, because sometimes I can read things better. Sometimes I have to listen to it. So that's the only time I kind of look up resources.
Okay.
I also want to add in, I don't watch a lot of how to DM videos just because I can easily psych myself out and think, oh, I'm supposed to DM just like this person. So if I know I have a session coming up tomorrow, I won't watch Critical Role because I'm not going to DM like Matt Mercer. In my head, my voices are like Matt Mercer, but when I review stuff, I'm like, oh God, what am I doing? I'm so bad at it. But in my head, I am absolutely Matt Mercer.
So this is perfect because I actually wanted to get into this next. Babs, you have been a miracle with all my segues this episode. Let's talk the live D&D stuff. I was going to ask, do you watch any of that? And it appears that you do at least watch some Critical Role. Do you find those things to be are you able to sit back and enjoy them, or is it I'm taking notes, I'm these are great ideas, this is almost kind of like work to me, or is it a mix of both? So I guess multiple questions here. Which ones do you watch? What are your favorites? What are you into when it comes to the live stuff, and how do you view it? Are you able to just sit there and watch as a fan, or what?
Critical Role when I have time, and because I am DMing so many games, I have no time anymore. This has almost fully become a second job to me. Between DMing and doing stuff planning for the next game is a whole second job, which I absolutely adore. But yeah, when I do watch Critical Role, I think it's the greatest thing. I like seeing how, as experienced as Matt is, he can still be thrown for a loop, and his players will still make him laugh or angry or just sputter in incredulity. It's great. It makes me feel better because I know you can tell when I blue screen, when I don't know how to react to something. It's oh yeah, this guy who's been doing it professionally and is probably paid hundreds of dollars a sessions, it happens to him too. I don't feel as bad.
Right.
And then when he has something, because he had something that he wanted to reveal in campaign 1 that didn't come about until campaign 2. I was like, that long game is what my backstory is for the lore of the game. When people eventually ask the right questions and figure it out, which they've come very close to several times, you're going to be like, you've been holding on to this for session 1?
That isn't, considering how long their games run. I don't hundreds of hours, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it might have been just a joke, but the campaign 1 was 500 hours. Not including the 3 years that they had before that.
Right. It's pretty intense because while I'm not up on Critical Role, I've never even watched a complete episode. It's kind of just I'll hop on Twitch is it on Thursdays, I think?
Yep.
A random Thursday night, I'll be trying to work out or exercise or something in my office, and I'll hop on Twitch just to have something on in the background. Oh, Critical Role's on, I'll check that out. I have no idea what's happening. I'm not familiar with the characters. I'm familiar with the people playing the characters, whether I've seen them in television or in the video games that I play, because a lot of them are voice actors. All of them are voice actors. I think that's kind of the thing. And even with that, it's still entertaining, and I'm able to like sit there and watch and laugh. And while I'm probably not understanding half the jokes or the inside references or anything like that, or sometimes I'll like message Brett and I'll be like, hey, why does this man have an enormous mug? All of his things that he drinks out of are gargantuan. And like, and Brett will be like, oh, it's because he's a dwarf. His character's a I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Well, I think she's a gnome. So,
right. Yeah.
She's very small, so everything has to be big.
Yep. But it also, you do see, because there's the unwritten thing with the Mercer effect, where people will watch Critical Role and then go play their D&D game with their friends, and they'll be like unbelievably disappointed because their DM isn't Matt Mercer. and they get like they put Matt Mercer up on a pedestal, and this is the end all be all of D&D. This is what everyone should try to achieve and strive to be. And it can be very detrimental, especially to a DM who's just trying to have some fun.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever had to combat that? Do you ever find yourself kind of in that mentality of like, man, Matt Mercer's the best and I'm never going to be like him?
Oh no, at the end of certain sessions, I'll be like, oh man, Matt Mercer's got nothing on me. Like, oh my God, I have annihilated their emotions. I started off being a very nice DM. Now I'm just like, I'm that one that's just like, how do I hurt them emotionally?
I shouldn't be laughing.
Brett says, I'm mentioning him a lot. He told me not to, but he's in all my games. He says, the look I have when I am about to torture them is the same look I give him when I get to see him again. It's just this extreme happiness on my face. Yeah. And for those who don't know, we live in different states. So before COVID, we see each other twice a month. Now it's once every couple of months.
It's a level of joy that you just, just fucking with people. Man,
I now have a shirt that says, when the DM smiles, you're in trouble, because yeah.
So, man, I am just.
When are you gonna run your Tomb of Horrors?
What about Tomb of Horrors?
When are you gonna run that one?
I know nothing about it.
Oh. So, from what I know, the D&D Tomb of Horrors is like the most difficult, deadliest, strenuous, painful, exhausting module ever to be created. I think it might have been Joe who was explaining it to us, unless I'm confusing my friends, where players would get 5 character sheets to go through it. And when their first character died, they get to pick up on their next character. And they hadn't gotten past the first hallway when they were down 3 characters and one of them lost an arm.
I want to play this immediately.
What's that?
I want to play it immediately. Oh my God, I love messing with people.
I think they were high levels too.
Oh man.
I'm trying to Google it right now to see if it was written by Gary Gygax for Dungeons and Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
Your character levels are 10 to 14, which I didn't even know you could get above 10th level. I thought 10th level was like the place to
20.
be.
Oh, no, you could get 20.
Yeah. I had no idea. There's an entire Wikipedia page on it. It's ranked as the 3rd greatest Dungeons and Dragons adventure of all time by Dungeon Magazine in 2004.
Oh, what's the first?
That's a great question, Babs. I'd love to give you the answer to that one. I'm clicking around trying to find it. There's a reference that I don't know if I can get to it. Anyways, I'm on the Wikipedia page just for Tomb of Horrors. So maybe it'll I'll be able to research it more. But God, I'm trying not to dig too deep in this. Okay, so D&D, back on topic. I wanted to talk real quick because I think we're running low on time here. We talked a lot about the pre-made modules. Now, is that something that, given the amount of games that you've been running, is it just easier to use the pre-made ones? Do you prefer them over homebrew stuff, like where you create your own storyline, or what's your preference when it comes to pre-made versus homebrew?
When I started, I needed pre-made. Now I'm like, we can do pre-made, we can do homebrew. Just give me at least 2 days to come up with the homebrew, and we'll run something. The Humblewood games, because I needed them to be brief. They were both supposed to be 5 sessions long. I think one ended up being 7. That one was the Spark Notes version of the entire Humblewood campaign, and so a lot of that had to be homebrewed to make certain things link up. Like I said, when one NPC got kidnapped and another player had to go off and find her, that entire thing was homebrewed because it was a need that suddenly came up and was like, you're going to search for your gnome artificer friend who you kind of actually don't know in your hometown, which she's told nobody about, and you're just going to go out and venture and find her and somehow get to Neverland.
I real quickly Googled it. Apparently the number one Dungeon Magazine's 30 greatest D&D adventures of all time from November 2004. Number 1 was Queen of Spiders. Number 2 was Ravenloft. 3 is Tomb of Horrors, if that means anything to anyone. There's a bunch of GDQ 1-7, Queen of Spiders. No idea what any of that means, but apparently it's for first edition.
GDQ? Is that a Games Done Quick?
Right? Like, that's what I was...
That's a really good guess.
So, Babs, as we kind of get toward the end here, if people, I don't know, the games that you're running, like let's say a listener from Texas is listening in and wants to get involved, is that something that they'd be able to do?
At the immediate moment, no. I am actually in the process, because I have the rest of December off and part of January.
Nice.
I'm going to be turning some of my campaigns into a podcast.
Ooh.
And it's going to be like between like 30 and 40 minutes in length, or whatever the appropriate break is. And maybe in March, when we start fundraising for March of Dimes, I'll do an open call for games. Although at that point, I'll probably have another couple hundred hours in, so I might actually make the jump into live streaming. The only reason I haven't live streamed in the past is not just because of my inexperience, but not everybody's camera ready.
Right.
Not everybody wants to finish a day at work and then jump on screen and entertain other people.
Yep.
I see how that affects the Critical Role people. I think that people were yelling at Marisha for a decision her character made, and they were attacking her on Twitter about it. It's like, I don't want that for my friends who have paid me to run this.
Yeah, I get that.
So every now and then, if you look up Dungeons and Babbins, you might find one in my open. And then I literally just started with, I was bored one day, I did Dungeons and Babbins hashtags. I'm like, give me a character type, like a class and a race, and I'm going to do like a 5-sentence short story about this character. And then that got traction several times. And then when I started DMing, I'm like, I'm just going to call it Dungeons and Babbins. I already have that hashtag that has a history. I'm going to pull up these characters and make them into NPCs in my actual games. And it'll all be one thing. And then I immediately forgot to bring in the people as NPCs.
Babs, you are an inspiration. I'm leaving this episode inspired and motivated. We played D&D a couple times at the very beginning of pandemic, back when everyone was all excited about trying to do things, and then like most things, that kind of fizzled out. And we just embraced the awfulness and loneliness that is pandemic life. But maybe it's time to kind of fire that up again. Before we end, Babs, where can if people wanted more Babs in their life, where can they go to do that, whether it's Twitter, so any kind of public socials or anything like that?
Right now, if you want to follow me for D&D stuff, the only place is on Twitter with BabetteKD, which is BabetteKD. KD, because back when I went to college, we were told, if you're going to be on social media, have your full name on there so nobody else can like ruin your reputation. And there's only one other Babette KD that I know of. So she has the Instagram handle. I have the Twitter handle.
It's a balance, It's
yeah. I maintain that I got to keep the Twitter one because I'm older than her and I've had the Twitter account longer.
Right, of course.
Sharing is good.
It's the law.
Yeah. I'm 2 years older. I get the Twitter account.
So you go and check out Babbs on Twitter. One of the more active and positive Twitter accounts that I follow.
Oh God, that's sad.
Tons. I mean, I love Twitter. Don't get me wrong. It can be a pretty vile cesspool of shit. But it can also be a very nice place. And you're one of the nice accounts. You seem more about.
That is very sad.
You're more about promoting nice things than tearing other things down, and I like that. So go and follow Babbs. Babbs, thank you so much for coming on and talking D&D with me.
Yeah,
with
thank
us,
you for having
me. And I hope the future brings many, many more hundreds of hours of DMing. I hope you hit that 300 by the end of the year. You got.
Well, now you two are roped into a game. That's going to happen. We're going to do it. We're going to have a 12-hour session.
Oh boy.
I'm going to tell Brett. Brett has a new phone.
Brett. I'm sorry, Brett.
No, he has new characters. He's very excited. We'll bring Squib in.
Oh man!
I hope other any of our listeners who've wanted to play or wanted to DM, like, I hope this has made it sound easier. You don't have to come up with an entire story and lore yourself. There's already pre-made games you could run, and Babbs has made it sound, you don't need a full 100 gigs of maps and info. You could look on Roll20 and there's some stuff already loaded in there.
Yeah, I just wanted it.
and play around and check it out and see if maybe it's not that hard. It's not too impossible. Go give it a shot.
Exactly. Play some D&D.
It's the best thing I've done all year.
Right? Yeah. Yep. With that said, that's going to do it. Babbs, again, thank you so much for coming on talking with us. This was a blast. I miss you. Hopefully, once all this shit is over with, we can all hang out and just like the old times.
Yeah, I just can't run a game in person though.
That's fair.
Ask me why.
Why?
I can't see over the DM screen.
I was thinking that, but I hadn't said it in time.
Should have known.
I'm 4'11". I can't see over a DM shield.
That's fair. I can't imagine the horrors that are behind it on your notepads and on the actual backside. Like, because do you have sub question right before we end? Do you have your own pre-made shit on the back of your DM screen? Do you use any of the stuff that's been supplied?
Okay, so my main screen has a virtual tabletop that I'm projecting. My other screen, because I have two, has generally 20 PDFs open of like store items and like NPC names and all that, as well as like 10 different tabs on Chrome for like different generators, like town generators, because one time my group said that they were going to go right to Thunder Tree and go fight a dragon, and instead they went to the city, and I had to start like barely a step ahead of them, an entire secret society.
Jesus.
And man, we could have an entire thing about that, just half hour of session. I was ready to kill everybody, but it ended up being fantastic.
as it usually is when you're ready to kill people.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for allowing me one more question. We need to end. This has been a great time. Again, go follow Babbs. Go check out her feed. It's a lot of fun, especially if you're into D&D. So with that said, that's going to do it for this episode. Until next time, I have been JR.
I'm Alex.
And I am Babbs.
And this has been episode 419 of Opinions May Vary. Hey everyone, if you liked that episode, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Opinions May Vary, and on Twitter and YouTube at OMV Podcast. You can also find us on Spotify or on our very own website at omvpodcast.com. And if you're looking for merch, we have stickers and pins available over at omvpodcast.bigcartel.com while supplies last. As always, thank you so much for listening. Let us know what you thought in the comments, and we will see you next time.